Arc Raiders anti-cheat isn't just watching the game anymore, it's watching you. And I know that sounds dramatic, but after digging through Embark's anti-cheat updates, I kind of understand why people are split on this. Because on one hand, cheating in online shooters has gotten completely ridiculous lately. On the other hand, some of these anti-cheat systems are starting to sound like they belong in a sci-fi movie where somebody loses civil rights by Act 2. If you've tried reading Embark's blog posts, you already know the vibe. Half the time it feels like a cybersecurity engineer swallowed a thesaurus and started typing under emotional distress. But buried under all that technical language is something generally interesting. Arc Raiders isn't just scanning for cheat files anymore. They're building systems to try to understand behavior, human behavior. And that changes the conversation completely. Because detecting software is one thing. Trying to determine whether a person is acting naturally, that gets weird fast. The easiest way to think about old school anti-cheat is airport security. You walk through the scanner, security checks your bags. If you bring something stupid, hopefully you get caught. Most anti-cheat systems work like that. They watch the game itself and look for obvious interference. But modern cheats stopped behaving like normal programs years ago. They adapted. Now they hide underneath processes, spoof hardware IDs, inject drivers, mask inputs. Some of these cheat developers operate with the energy of a small ransomware startup. So, Embark uses Easy Anti-Cheat, or EAC. And EAC doesn't just watch the game. It watches the stuff trying to manipulate the game from outside of it. Which means anti-cheat has slowly evolved from mall cop near the food court into federal agent checking floor plans. That escalation happened quietly, by the way. Most players didn't really notice until kernel-level anti-cheat became normal. Then everybody noticed. Kernel-level anti-cheat is the part that instantly starts arguments online. You mention it once and suddenly somebody with an anime profile is typing all caps about privacy violations. But the simplified version is this. Your computer has layers. The game is upstairs, Windows is downstairs, the ugly stuff hides in the basement. And unfortunately, a lot of advanced cheats really do operate down there now. Traditional anti-cheat can't fully see those processes because they're sitting underneath normal software permissions. So, companies start moving anti-cheat deeper into the system too. Kernel-level anti-cheat is basically giving security access to the entire building instead of just the lobby. That's why people are uncomfortable with it. Not because they're all cheating, although statistically, some definitely are, but because it feels invasive. And honestly, I get both sides. Because if you've ever played a competitive shooter that got completely overrun by cheaters, you know how fast the game dies once players stop trusting matches. But there's also something deeply unsettling about installing a video game and realizing it technically has more system access than some software you use for work. Embark says they're experimenting with newer kernel-level systems to improve detection accuracy even further, which is impressive. It's a massive technical hurdle, but if it works, it means the basement is no longer a safe haven for the cheat developers. It's an aggressive move, but in a game like this, it might be the only one that actually works. This is where things stop feeling like traditional anti-cheat and start feeling behavioral. Embark also works with a company called Anybrain, and this system barely cares about cheat files at all. Instead, it studies players. Not your messages, not your desktop, your patterns. How you aim, how consistent you react, how movement timing changes under pressure. Because humans are inconsistent, even very skilled humans. Real players panic slightly. They overcorrect. They hesitate for half a second after being surprised. Cheats don't do that naturally. Cheats tend to behave with this eerie mechanical confidence that starts looking obvious once you graph enough data. And honestly, one of the funniest parts of modern cheating is that the software keeps trying to imitate human imperfection now. The cheats are adding fake mistakes on purpose. Anybrain's system is basically trying to answer one question. Does this look human or not? And weirdly enough, that might actually be the future of anti-cheat because hiding files is getting easier, faking humanity convincingly, apparently much harder. This is also where the entire thing becomes ethically messy because abnormal inputs do not automatically mean cheater. Some players use adaptive controllers, custom hardware, accessibility devices, modified input setups because standard controls physically don't work for them. The problem is, cheat hardware often overlaps with those same categories. That's the nightmare scenario for any anti-cheat developers because now the system isn't just detecting software anymore. It's trying to infer intent, and intent is a dangerous territory for automation. Embark says their AI systems are trained to distinguish between legitimate accessibility usage and scripted behavior by analyzing gameplay patterns instead of simply flagging hardware, which sounds good in theory. But I also think people underestimate how emotionally brutal false bans can feel in multiplayer games now, especially when somebody has hundreds of hours invested. One bad detection can instantly turn a loyal player into somebody who never trusts your game again. And if that sounds dramatic, spend 5 minutes reading anti-cheat ban threads online. Some of those people sound like they're describing a wrongful prison sentence. Sometimes irrationally, sometimes not. Embark is saying every ban appeal is reviewed by a real human moderator, and honestly, that part matters more than AI itself, because the second players believe appeals are fully automated, trust collapses. Nobody wants to feel they got sentenced by a spreadsheet. Embark says moderators review the evidence manually and also use appeals to improve future detections over time, which is important because no AI detection system is going to be perfect, probably ever, especially systems trying to measure human behavior statistically. That's an insanely complicated problem when you think about it for more than 30 seconds. Some players are just weird. Some players are unbelievably skilled. Some play inconsistently because they're tired, distracted, tilted, nervous, sleep deprived, or running on 2 energy drinks in spite. Humans are chaotic. That chaos is probably the only reason behavior-based anti-cheat works at all. The biggest thing I take away from all of this is that Embark clearly doesn't see anti-cheat as a background feature anymore. They see it as survival, because the second players stop believing matches are fair, competitive games start rotting from the inside out. And honestly, they probably are right about that. But the trade-off is that anti-cheat systems are becoming more invasive, more behavioral, and more psychologically sophisticated than they used to be. We're getting dangerously close to games trying to determine not just what software you're running, but whether you're behaving like a real person. And that's either incredibly smart or the opening scene of a dystopian documentary from 2031. That's been Embark's new stance on cheaters. What are your thoughts? If this has helped you at all, please drop a like, subscribe. I'm Mr. Winter, and I'll see you in the next one.